So I'm a little bit between builds at the moment. I finished off the Johnny Ramone build, which was a little bit of an epic, and I'm planning something which is going to be, if anything, even more epic. But as I've said in the previous video, I've had a guitar build on the go constantly for the last 4 years, and if I'm honest, kind of getting a little bit burnt out with it. So I'm just taking a little bit of time to clear a few little jobs up, do a few slightly different builds that I've been meaning to do for a long time, and then use that little bit of a rest to get myself prepared for the next epic monster build, and it is going to be a big one. So for the next few episodes, I'm going to do something that I've had waiting in the wings for a few months now, and it's something that I don't think I've really covered enough on this channel, because I'm going to build another kit. And there's a couple of reasons why I want to do that. Firstly, someone's gifted me this kit, so I'm going to build it. And secondly, I think building kits is a really, really good way of getting into the guitar building hobby. There's a lot of skills that you can learn just putting one of these things together, and it's a really good stepping stone towards your first actual build. So this kit has come from Koban Guitars, which appears to be a UK company. I think I've seen their website. I don't spend a lot of time looking at kit guitars, but I'm pretty sure I have been on there. And it is a kit for a Flying V. And I am going to be 100% honest right from the outset. I have no need at all for a Flying V in my collection. Truth be told, my collection is already far too big. I get a lot of grief about the amount of space that my guitar collection takes up in the house. And if at all possible, I want to kind of limit how many more guitars are getting added to that. So this guitar, when it's built, is going to be for sale. And any money I raise from it will go towards a charity. I haven't quite made my mind up how I'm going to go about that yet, or which charity it's going to be, but that is the outcome for this guitar. So if you are interested, keep your eyes peeled. In terms of the build, it's a glue-in neck job, so it's not like the last kit I built, which was a bolt-on, which was kind of very easy to put together. This one is actually a glued together job, and that kind of fits in there really nicely. So that's a good start. It's a good tight neck pocket. The body is made out of some generic wood or other. It is very, very light. It's not mahogany or Superior or anything like that. The neck looks like a similar material as well, but it will make for a very light guitar. But as you can see, it has got some very nicely book matched flame maple veneer on the front, which looks really, really good. And I'm sure we can make this look stunning. It comes with a black pick guard. I'm not 100% sold on that. And it's got a little cover for the switch as well, which is black. I don't know if I'll go with those, but we can get onto that later on down the line. Now, what I'd like to do with this in this episode is just kind of put it together, bit of a dry run, make sure everything fits as it should do. But before I do that, I'm just going to have a look through everything and see what we've got. I've got a multitude of bags here. I've got a little lead with an Allen key. Probably won't get ever used ever. I've got a set of strings here which are probably absolutely gash, so they're not going to get used. Electronics. Pretty standard for something like this. Is a kind of enclosed toggle switch and some mini pots. They'll be absolutely fine. A jack. All of this comes on plugs, so it all plugs together, so there's absolutely no soldering involved. So nothing to be afraid of there for a new builder. A couple of humbuckers again. We'll get into those again on plugs, so they'll just plug straight in when the time comes. This one already looks a little bit bent, so we're going to have to kind of fix that up a little bit. Got a bag here with some tuners. Which actually look quite nice. You're never going to get absolutely top quality in these kits unless you're paying top quality money. And there's the little bushings and a little truss rod cover. Springs and screws and strap buttons and stuff. Knobs. 3 kind of Telecaster style chrome knobs. And then Tune-o-matic style bridge. Stop tailpiece. Studs. Pretty standard stuff there as well. It all looks absolutely fine, if I'm honest. So I've been through all this. I'm going to get the big box out of the way, and I'm just going to start kind of assembling a few bits and pieces just to make sure that everything goes together as it should. I've done a quick check because it doesn't seem to be written down anywhere in the literature, but this is very much a 24 3/4 inch scale length. So that gives us something to work on. In terms of the neck, the inlays look absolutely fine. They're all done these days by machine, so it's pretty straightforward for them to get a really nice fit. The fretboard looks like wood. It doesn't look like a composite. The binding all looks great. The nut is cheap plastic rubbish. That will be coming off, and we'll put something nicer in there. It's a really important part of your build. We don't want that nonsense. And the fret ends, I wouldn't say they're badly finished. I would say they're not even finished. They're very kind of, they've had an angle put on them, but there has been no attempt to soften off the fret ends. So we'll need to do a bit of work on there. But to be honest, not a big deal. Okay, let's make some room on the bench and start getting a few bits put together. And I'm going to start by just kind of temporarily putting stuff onto the pick guard. I'm assuming that that is for the switch. Screw on there. And we've got 3 pots and a few kind of wires leading off them. And then we've also got the output jack, which of course I'm going to separate from its little plug because that needs to go onto the other little scratch plate. That's the tone pot because it's got a capacitor on it. The yellow wire is going to go to the neck pickup, so we'll put that one there. The red one is the bridge pickup, so it makes sense for it to go nearest the bridge or the pickups because that's the one that's going to get used the most, I would imagine. Then that's the tone. And in terms of these pickups, the red is the bridge. I'll just bust out some screws and springs. Now already those are very tight in those holes, so I'm going to get a drill and just open out those screw holes a little bit so those screws go through a little bit easier. And I think this is the beauty of just doing a very quick test build on something like this, is that you can just make sure that everything's working before you commit to anything else. I think in this case, when it's just a scratch plate, it's not quite so important, but on other aspects of the build, it might be the difference between things working and not. So it is definitely worth doing. And before I go any further with this, I'm just going to just straighten the leg of that pickup up a little bit, just make it a little bit more like the shape we want. We can get that installed. So I'll just quickly get these pickups installed off camera and get back to you for the next stage. Okay, so that's all put together now, and next bit is just to make sure that we can kind of get all these little wires through where we need them. Through to that control cavity, which we can. And just for the sake of completeness, I'm just going to loosely plug those in. I'm going to try and tuck everything out of the way. And everything seems to fit very nicely there. Not a problem. I'm not going to screw these in all the way. I'm just going to put them in loosely. And again, just screw in this output jack loosely. It seems a little bit of a shame that we've got this kind of nicely veneered maple on the top, and we're going to cover it all over with this kind of pretty standard black scratch plates. I'm wondering if there's something I can do about that. Obviously we've got a great big control cavity here, and we've got a hole there that we need to make sure isn't visible. I'm just wondering if we could perhaps borrow a nod from the Fabric Top Paisley Telecaster, because their pickguard is clear acrylic and they just spray kind of sections of it where they don't want the pickup routes and stuff to be visible. Maybe that's something we could do with this. I'll have a think about it. But so far we're looking pretty good. Everything seems to be working. The next thing I want to do is just see if I can get this neck in position with all the hardware on it, so I can take a measurement to see that the bridge is going to be roughly where we want it to be. I'm not sure I want to press these studs in, because obviously if I do that I've got to get them back out again. But having said that, they're pressing in quite easily, so I would imagine they'll come out not too bad. So I'll go with that. That's the bridge on. I'm not bothered about trialing the tailpiece. That should be absolutely fine. But I'm just going to move this down the other end of the bench. And we'll just see if we can slide the neck in. Now, when I tried this before, it was really quite tight. And it looks like it's a tapered thing, so I'm not going to be able to get it in with that scratch plate on, so I'll just nip it off. The reason I'm checking this is because the last time I tried the neck in, the scratch plate wouldn't fit, with the neck right the way up against the end of the pickup route. And what I don't want to do is to glue the neck in place and not have enough scope for intonation. So I'm going to see how this goes in. And that's gone in with a little bit of a gap in the pickup route there, which I didn't have last time. So I'm not going to put the whole thing back together. So I'll just quickly fit the scratch plate again. With that little bit of a gap, the screws will go in, which was the problem we had last time. The screws weren't quite lining up with the holes. And what I need to do now is get the bridge back on. And I'm looking for a measurement from the nut to the bridge saddle on the high E string of around about 24 3/4 now. Now this saddle is sat actually quite a ways back, so I'm going to just pull that kind of about 3/4 of the way towards the front, and if my measurement of 24 3/4, see that is dropping just on that saddle now at 24 3/4. So that means if we glue the neck in at that position, we should be able to get intonation. And what I couldn't do before, I could quite easily get the pick guard screwed in. So to all intents and purposes, everything there is as it should be. So happy days. The only thing I haven't checked is that the studs will go in for this tailpiece, and they're fine. They will push in, no problem at all. So in terms of the trial build, all of that is great. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to whip it all out again, get the neck off, and just check that the tuners fit, because there is actually something I want to look at there. Okay, and I've stuck the tuners in just to check that they fit, but also I wanted to see how much kind of post we had sticking through the headstock, to see if I had any scope to do something that I want to do, because I don't particularly like this headstock facing. I think we can do much better than that. And I've actually got some rosewood, which the fingerboard looks a little bit darker than that, but I'm sure once we get some finish onto that, we can darken it up. I might have something that's a bit darker anyway that we could use. I want to put kind of a 2mm facing onto this headstock, so I can put a nice mother of pearl inlay into this, just to make it a little bit fancier and a little bit nicer. I've also took the time to check that I can kind of get at the truss rod and that it actually functions, and it does. It's all absolutely fine, so that's good as well, which means pretty much that everything fits how we want it to, and we're looking good. And the thing here is that I don't think I can emphasize enough how important it is to go through this process and do these checks and make sure everything fits before you go any further, because it's much more difficult to make adjustments and to change things once you've got necks glued in, you've got finish on, etc. So going through this process now for me is probably one of the most important bits of any guitar build, which includes something like this. So next up, I think we need to address what's happening with this headstock facing. We need to get the neck glued in, and I also need to get a few parts on order, such as this nut, which I want to replace because I think this one's horrible. I think I will also do away with this truss rod cover because it's not particularly nice. I also might have a look and see what the actual truss rod cover on a Flying V looks like. If it's nothing like that, I could change that out as well. But all of that's going to be for the next episode. I'm going to leave this one here, so I'll be back in a couple of days' time when we can get onto that. Until then, don't forget to hit like if you've enjoyed it, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.